Joe,
Okay.
is this better?
No idea.
Okay, go.
Okay, guys, for those who are watching, I'm not gonna play more today, but I'm gonna explain the runes since a lot of people have been asking them about TF. So for the guys watching, I'll do an explanation now that will be roughly what's going on in my mind when I select them. Okay, for example, the sorcery is always between Aerie and Comet, and it's quicker to explain the Comet. Comet is basically best used against mages that you have hard time trading or dealing with. For example, Ryze, Syndra, Orianna, because you don't want to take long time exchanges with them, especially since they play Aerie too. So what you do is you take Arcane Comet, and when they tend to go for you, you can trade with the stun and leave, and then you still have a slight positive trade that's more beneficial than the Aerie itself. And then you can use the Comet better or differently in team fights because it has a different scaling to Aerie. As for Aerie, I prefer it overall because it's really good on team fights, so if you can make the sacrificial trade in lane work with it, it gives you more teamfight potential, and it's super good against any melee champion or AD champion, because usually with those champions you can find opportunities in lane to bully them, and those usually have longer exchanges in lane where you actually abuse Aerie. Aerie is also really super good when you're ganking and chasing people that are longer range, rather than Comet where you get immediate value if they're squishy and you try to kill them more quickly. But if you chase them and you run alongside them, you can proc Aerie continuously, and that's why I prefer it over Comet. As for the next section, Nullifying Orb is good against double AP. So it means basically an AP jungler and AP mid. So you higher your chances when you're getting ganked, and then you combine this with Rod and Mercs, and you're gonna be pretty hard to kill. It's also good against Syndra, Fizz, and what was the last one, like Akali or Diana. Cause when they all in you, you're gonna suffer, and you can use the nullifying orb to trade or potentially win out with Ignite. So it does a huge work in lane, especially against Fizz early on, since the changes to Fizz made it hard for me to kill him pre-6, but I find already a few times where the nullifying orb has helped me sustain the damage, and I survived his burst. Now for the mana flow band is basically lanes you think you can get shoved in and you'd rather try to farm. Uh, a good example would be Aurelion Sol because he shoves you in. Another could be, for example, actually I can't think of any examples now, but it's basically when you're being shoved in, or you think you're gonna get ganked a lot and you're not playing against AP to use the nullifying, so you can sustain the mana of being shoved in, since you're gonna use your Q continuously, and then it just provides a more mana funnel into your kit. Else, basically, if you don't need the two first ones, ultimate hat is the thing to go because you want to gank more frequently. That's basically it. The ultimate hat doesn't need any more explanation, to be honest. Celerity is the clear choice because it's the compensation for the MS Queens, and I find Absolute Focus like really garbage because they're not gonna be many times in lane, especially since you're supposed to lose lane with TF, that you're gonna be above 70% to actually gain the adaptive damage. Transcendence could work, but I'm playing to win lane pre-6 and do things uh, before the 10 level mark, so I don't really like it, so I'm just going with Celerity for later uses and also in lane to both chase and avoid spells. and to compensate for the MS Quints. So for me, this is like the choice I would never change, and I'm always gonna keep it compared to the other ones. As for Scorch and Gathering Storm, if you think you can kill your opponent or bullet them out where you need effectively damage, or you think your team comp is really strong early on where you want to close the game out before 30-minute mark, the Scorch is substantially a lot better than Gathering Storm, because Gathering Storm will only give you 8 AP at level 10 and 24 at level 20. No, I mean at minute 20, not level 10, minute 10. So the Gathering Storm doesn't give you a huge chunk before 30 minutes where you get like a Blasting Wand, which would give you 40 AP, but at 30 minutes it gives you 48. And that's basically when you start hitting full build or maybe building Rabadon, so the accumulative Gathering Storm becomes more effective when you think you're gonna go medium or long range or end game towards some team, where you basically go into late game. Then Gathering Storm has a larger case for it. But if you wanna win lane, or you think you have a strong team comp early on, Scorch is definitely better because Gathering Storm basically gives no AP until 30 minutes. As for the domination, I like to take Cheap Shot because I can utilize even more glass cannon damage and play around different variables with Ignite to abuse my opponent and try to outplay them or kill them early on. And it's just a small added bonus damage that I can use for other things, such as when I gank to capitalize and try to get quicker into lane, which is alongside the usage of Ignite. Eyeball Collection is the one I like because it's like a really quick 20 AP alongside Scorch usually, which you play then again around the factor that you're gonna close the game out pretty quick and you just want more cheese damage to allow your kit and scaling to kick in and close the game earlier. Else, you could switch one of these two outs with Relentless Hunter and try to get more movement speed out of lane to try and do things globally or get back quicker back to lane or smaller things. Ravenous Hunter I think could be good too, because it would be like a Hextech Gunblade heal if you manage to stack it up. But it's minuscule in lane, but it could still helping you gain one of those small health points in lane, but you only struggle in lane on 2 variables before you get Catalyst. When you get Catalyst, lane becomes really easy. So it's basically how you manipulate the lane, but the most important thing is how much does your opponent punish you in lane. So the Ravenous Hunter is not needed, that's why I do these two to try and snowball along with Aerie and Scorch in lane and find different advantages. Now for the Lost Room page is Klepto tier. No, I forgot one thing. There's some times where instead of domination with Comet or Aerie, when you play sorcery you go into inspiration. Then I take perfect timing and future market. The reason for these two is I know I'm gonna build Zonia this game, and this has a stronger argument against teams you know you need perfect timing on. For example, let's say they have a jungler that you know will gank and synchronize with a level 6 Zed or a level 6 Syndra, then you can take the stopwatch and basically have a free Zonia when they hit level 6 and try to kill you with your ultimate. No, sorry, I'm stumbling on my own words. When they're trying to kill you with their ultimate, then you can soak that first ult and you will have Rod of Ages and then try to build into the Zonia, because you don't need Lishbane as quick because of Aerie, and that's something I've tried out. You can try to get Sheen, which is a normal luxury, which I've seen even Dopa do previous season. So he usually tended to go Rod, Sheen and then Zonia. So he still has some damage that's buffering up and he can reset between autos and cycle the Sheen procs until he then builds Zonia as third. Future market, you can buy quicker items. The other ones aren't as good. Sure, you can go into perhaps like Cosmic or Celestial to gain 100 HP, but that's not really it's not really needed, so you just go Futures Market to recall quicker every time, and this has helped me in certain times where I know I could buy, for example, Catalyst earlier or Boots earlier, or I could buy Boots plus Catalyst. So I was sitting on maybe 1200, and then the debt is usually at 200, so I could buy both the Boots and the Catalyst. So this offers unique backs on TF where you don't need to hold to a certain lead or buy smaller items. So it synchronizes really well with you trying to scale and get the zoning off, because the components are usually cheaper to get off. The last one is Klepto TF. I haven't played it as much as I did in the start, but I think Klepto is good against champions like Malzahar and Vlad. It's not needed against Malzahar because you're gonna farm his minions anyway, but I found a reason to try it against Malzahar because you can quicker your scaling and you can try auto attacking him and proccing stuff. So I was typing in chat. And the reason why I tried it out was you auto attack, you try to gain the gold, and you have the perfect timing, you have the future market, and you're trying to go more CDR heavy against the Vlad and Malzar, because you're gonna build Lich Bane, you're gonna build Zonia, and with blue you get a really high CDR with this, and you can choose to try and hyperscale because you're not supposed to beat Vlad, and you can go even with Malzar without trying to beat him, because he's basically giving you a CS every time he lanes and procs his minions. Because a CS is what, like 17 gold, and then you have a average of 4 gold, and he procs 3 of them, and that should average on that should average 4 times 3, which is 12. So almost like a CS every time he comes into lane. No, every time a next minion wave crashes, it usually gives you an additional minion, basically. So that's really neat. And you can try to hyperscale against the Mals. But against Vlad, I really like it because you can try to auto attack him and you can stay more out of range because you gain 25 range. And you can get potions, you can get gold, and you can basically try to deal with the Vlad better depending on what you get from Klepto. And if you do play Klepto, you usually play Celerity and Hat. You shouldn't really play Scorch because you already sacrificed the damage by going Klepto. You can go Gathering Storm instead of Hat, but Celerity, I just find the case for it is too good because it's the replacement of your MS Quint. And yeah, that should be it on basically how I alternate between the two pages, but mainly why I'm using Sorcery, Airy and Comet, and then everything else, and on the secondary, which is Inspiration and Domination, which I'm using on these, and why I'm alternating between these three, but I'm keeping Celerity steady and Scorch or Gathering, and then Airy or Comet. But that should give you a rough idea of why I'm playing these ones. And basically it just offers you to be really flexible and adaptive with the new room page as to what you're facing, rather than going the same room mastery page over and over. So when people ask me, I just said it depends on the opponent, but at least now I gave it a rough explanation, so hopefully the people that are watching understand it a bit better as to why I'm alternating between them and why I don't really answer it with one sentence, because you basically can't answer it with one sentence. Dom, you can unmute. I finished explaining.